joint work with my colleague Brian Akbury. We're both data scientists, or senior data scientists at Cubis in London. First I'm going to introduce the talk, then I'm going to tell you a bit about what we found so far, and exploratory findings, some geographical findings, some modeling. There's unfortunately not as much as we wanted to have because my laptop broke, and then some plans for the future. So we said we both work for Cubis. It's a small data science consultancy in London, Amsterdam and San Francisco. We were founded in 2015 in San Francisco, and the London office was founded in 2016. We're about 25 data scientists in total-ish, and 10 in London, and if anyone's looking for a job, we're always hiring. Right, so, that was too far, I think. Yes. So what's the MOT? So you have to keep your car roadworthy at all times, and for that there's an annual test in the UK that basically checks that your car is actually roadworthy. Yes, so it also includes an emissions test to make sure your car doesn't kill everyone. So we focus on cars. So the test has to be done for any road vehicle with an engine, but we focus on cars for this one. Cars have to do the test once they are 3 years old. Other vehicles have to do them after the first year. The tests are usually done at garages or vehicle testing stations. They're not done by the state or so. They started to be computerized in 2005 and fully computerized in 2006. The data set is anonymized, so it's persistent, but with an anonymized identifier, not with a number plate. The data is available. You've got the age of the car, you've got the test results of the different tests, you've got the mileage that's recorded when they do the test, you've got the make and the model of the car. That's generally okay, that is partially really bad. You have the fuel type of the car, you've got the postcode region. So in UK you've got postcodes, it's letter, letter, number, number, letter, letter, and that is generally unique for each road. And the postcode region is basically letter, letter, number. That's like an area, yeah. And in terms of the test, if it's passed, it's a pass. If it's failed, it tells you where it fails. In terms of the car, it tells you what failed, and it tells you how severe the failure is. So there are about 30 million odd tests a year. There are about 65 million test item records per year, and there are about 18 to 19 million cars a year. So there are a lot of double tests, triple tests. For this, we restrict ourselves to 5 years of data, so not the entire data set since 2006. That's about 50 gigabyte in CSV files. Most of the analysis was done on laptops like this one, with 16 gig of RAM. 50 gigabyte doesn't quite fit into 16 gigabyte, so we used MongoDB Lite, tidyverse for analysis and plots, and then Ranger and standard LM for prediction. Yeah, so what did we find? This is a distribution of the brands, or make as I called, for all of those that have at least 1% of the testing share. You can see that the maximum, or the largest one in terms of, is Ford, followed close by Vauxhall, which maybe you know as Opel, or I don't know, other names. And you can also see that the brands that are not covered, that don't have at least 1%, are about 5.6% of the total testing share, market share, I don't know how to call it. I checked electric cars, there are 66 Teslas in 2016. And that's, again, that's only because you have to be 3 years old, and in 2013 there weren't many Teslas sold. But I expect that to go up over the next years. That's again the tested vehicles, just the top 10, so you can easier see what's going on. So the 15% is Ford, the 12% is Vauxhall, and the 8.9% is Volkswagen. And it goes down. That's the distribution of vehicle color. just the top 7 colors. There's a lot of weird colors that are left out. Not surprisingly, so the top one is gray, then black and blue. You can see the share of green one and is going down for some reason. I mean, to be honest, it surprised me that there were so many green cars driving around. Yeah, and here you can see why that is a bit. You can see that the more expensive cars, so particular Audi, BMW, Mercedes, which isn't on there, have very neutral colors. So they're black, they're white, they're silver, they're gray. The cars that are more aimed at a younger market, like the Citroën or like the Renault, Peugeot, they have more fancy colors, red and green, for example. And that's just an overview of the fuel type, restricted to diesel, hybrid, and petrol. The blue one is petrol, the red one is diesel, and the green one is hybrid. You can see for the cars down there on the left that in 2015, 2016, hybrid starts growing quite significantly. And again, cars have to be 3 years old. So the, 2012, 2013, there was quite an uptick in hybrid cars being sold. And you can also see that the market share of petrol is going down and diesel is going up. And that's just due to basic tax subsidies for diesel. Yeah. And you can see that for the other cars, three-wheeled vehicles and motorcycles are basically all petrol, and buses and lorries are all diesel. And with the buses, they have to be 1 year old to be tested, and you can see that in 2016, that's the first time they're actually hybrid buses. And that's about right. They started coming around in 2015. That's the cylinder capacity per brand. Not surprisingly, BMW and Audi have the largest one, and the French cars have the smallest one. What kind of surprises me, and I'm not quite sure why that is that the average over all cars is larger than any of the 10 biggest brands. If anyone has any idea, please let me know. Yes. So that's the distribution of the MOTs by months. You can see that as I said, there are about 34 to 35 million tests a year, but they're not quite uniformly distributed over the year. There are surprisingly few in December. Yeah, and most people seem to test in March or September. Yeah, so this is one we had already, I think. Yeah. This is the pass rate per month, and as you can see, that varies fairly severely. Generally it's creeping up over the years. So, and that's due to a shift in the market, in the car market in UK. There's a shift away from buying your car to financing your car, and that just leads to younger and younger. Well, there are generally more and more newer cars rather than older cars, and newer cars are more likely to pass the test, obviously, and that's why it's generally creeping up. What I find interesting is that cars that are tested in February have a far higher pass rate than cars tested in any other month. Again, no idea why, but we're trying to find out. Basically, don't test your car in January, test in February. That's a test rate per brand. And what you can see there is that the cheaper the general perception of the brand, the more likely they have a lower pass rate. I don't think that the brand is the reason for the pass rate. I think there's probably something else that's underlying there. But to answer the reason why your car is failing, you probably bought a French one. I can say that I'm German. Yeah, and you can see also the pass rate by color. The more neutral colors, silver, white, grey, are more likely to pass. The green one is particularly bad. And if you remember the distribution of the colors per brand, and remember which brand has a higher pass rate, all becomes clear, because the more expensive cars have the neutral colors, they're more likely to pass. And the, well, Citroën in particular, with large green shade, has a fairly bad pass rate, and that's why that pushes that down. But again, you can see this shift upwards over time because of generally younger cars. Yeah, and geographical distribution, just something interesting. Mileage by UK region, people in the southeast or in the south generally drive more. Not quite sure why, but it's what it is. There are very few motorways or highways in the UK. They're mostly in the south as well. I think there are no motorways in Scotland, for example, or Northern Ireland. That's London. You can see the mileage. Surprisingly, people in the center of London don't drive a lot. And as you go out, people drive more. The vehicle age, again, that's probably driven by income or affluence. I'd say people in the south have newer cars. People in the north have older cars. There you go first. Yeah, fuel type as well. In the north, you have, and in Wales in particular, you have more diesel cars. They're generally more rural areas as well. In the south, where it's more, particularly around London, you have more petrol cars. And this is the one I mentioned before. This is, you can see petrol generally going down, diesel going up, and then having this sharp downward trend in 2017, 2018, which is probably driven by that whole emission scandal. And you can see the alternative fuels going up, and that's, you can see the spike starting really, or the thing really starting to go up in 2013, and that's this starting to go up in 2015, 2016 in terms of the tests, because as I said, the cars have to be 3 years old when they be first tested. And yeah, that's a pass result by region. You can again see that the areas with younger cars pass more likely to pass. And what we're trying to find out, that's the next step, is can we see if there's any connection between income or affluence and pass rates, or yeah. And we did some proof of concept modeling. We were planning to do a lot more, but as I said, my laptop broke the day before I flew down here, and we had a server that broke a week beforehand. So it kind of all got in one. We did on Ranger, I did a simple random forest on 100,000 rows of sample data from 2016, usual 80-20 split. It took about 20 hours on this laptop for 100 trees. I would usually use a lot more trees. It's basically try to predict the test result, pass, fail, with the color of the car, the brand, the cylinder capacity, the model, the mileage, the postcode area, the age of the car, and what month of the year the test was. And that was a lot better than I expected. So we got 64% accuracy on the training set, and about 72% accuracy on the testing set. But there's a lot of scope for improvement. I personally think still ongoing. That's a confusion matrix if anyone is interested. So particularly you can see the prediction of the fail is not quite there yet. We also did a logistic regression on the whole thing on about 180,000 rows of the 2016 data, and then we got the testing set out of the other 99% of the data, and there we tried to predict the test result with a test type. So what type of test was it? Was it a first set? Was it a retest? The mileage at the time of the test, the age of the car, the cylinder capacity, the brand, and what region it was. And that's not a postcode region, that's a larger region. So it's southeast, southwest, London, Scotland, Wales, northeast, northwest, Midlands, I think. And yeah, awesome. And there was a slightly better result there. And the significant factors, which are probably not surprising. So if it's a retest, if your car failed the first time, you go back to have a retest, you know what's wrong, you fixed it, and you're very likely to pass. The mileage, that's a proxy for how well your car is holding up. So the more mileage you have, the more likely it is to fail. Same with age, and same with the region Scotland. Yeah, in future, we want to do a lot more work on that. Feature engineering, better predictions. I would like to do a random forest with a little bit more trees, different types of models, We'll see how XGBoost does on that one particularly. Maybe neural network. We also, as I said, we've got this persistency of the data over the different years, so you can identify that, and we'll see if we can use that one. So see how your car develops over a year. If it maybe has some minor defects for a few years, and then probably gets a major at some point, and yeah, use the entire data set that's available. We also would like to make a Shiny app at some point. Next talk about is at Earl in London in September, and we hope to have something there in terms of Shiny. If anyone wants to help, that's my email. And yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, any questions? Oh no, I'm not going to buy a green Citroen. I wonder how the tradesmen over Australia, tradesmen here in Australia tend to buy these lime green utes. Maybe it doesn't apply. Any questions? Yeah.
In terms of all those plots showing different colours of cars and the pass rate, what we're really interested to see what like the age of the cars or the mileage of the cars as well. Did you, in your analysis, find a relationship between age and mileage and success of passing?
Well, so generally, oh yeah, so the question was if there's a relationship between age and mileage and the pass rate, and yeah, the older the car is, the more mileage it has, the more likely it's to fail.
Yep. Was then, so okay, I guess it would have been interesting to see a plot for that, just to see the different makes of cars as well.
Yeah.
Get a feel of which cars have more durability.
The problem is it gets really confusing. I had a plot like that. It's just there's too much going on to show that. That's, as I said, that's where the Shiny app comes in, because then you can zoom in and have a look what's really going on.
Just take one more. Back there.
I believe the MOT is being dropped to require for cars older than 40 years, I think. Coming in now. Do you have any idea of what sort of effect that will have? I know those cars, those older sort of classic cars pass no requirement, or are they fail?
I'm not quite sure. So I know. So the question was what happens for older cars and the MOT being dropped for cars that are older than 40. And so I know at Imperial College we had a car that was about 110 years or 100 years old or something. And that was tested with the rules that were in place when the car was made, which was basically, does it run? So as long as they kind of hold up, they usually passed anyway, because as I said, the rules depends on when the car was registered, more or less. I can't really say what will happen. The cars that are over 40 years old, I think, are usually in fairly good shape, because there are very few of them, and I would think they're mostly held by collectors, but I don't know. I really no idea.